Maryland football will have to score a lot of points to beat Nebraska.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And this episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every details because when you make every moment count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Maryland football is going to have to score a whole lot of points, I think, to beat Nebraska on Saturday. So I think when I think about this game in totality and when I think about Nebraska as a football team, I just think offense. I think right now a lot of offense. I think they're one of the better Big Ten teams offensively in my head, but also it's backed up by statistics. And I talked about it a little bit yesterday. I don't know if anybody in the Big Ten has, or I don't want to say I don't know if anybody in the Big Ten has as much juice because I think there's a couple teams with as much juice with them, but there's not very many teams in the Big Ten that have as much juice as what Nebraska has offensively. I think their offense is on the side of elite in terms of not only just the Big Ten, but the country. And they've proven that this year. They've scored a lot of points in a lot of their games against Michigan State last weekend, 38 points, against Akron, 68 points, against maybe the most impressive one and the one I want to focus on, and kind of one of the biggest reasons why I say this is against Nebraska or against Michigan, sorry. They had 27 points. And let me tell you something. That Michigan defense is really freaking good. Like, Michigan defense has a lot of really good football players on it that they generally do a pretty good job. Like, Wisconsin was only able to score 10 points against that Michigan defense. And we know Wisconsin's not amazing when you compare them to some of the other teams in the country. But even when they lost to Oklahoma, Michigan did, they only scored 24 points. And so, or gave up 24 points. So the fact that Nebraska was able to even crack the Michigan defense that has been pretty freaking good all year is definitely impressive. And when you have a guy that I consider an NFL level quarterback, I think a lot of people would agree with this, that Dylan Raiola of Nebraska, I think he's an NFL guy. I think when we look at mock drafts next year, obviously he can't come out this year. I think when we look at mock drafts for next year, we're going to be looking at a guy that's projected to go pretty high. I think there's going to be a lot of different numbers that indicate Dylan Raiola going pretty high in next year's draft. And he's the biggest reason why I think Maryland's going to have to score a lot of points to be able to win this game, because Dylan Raiola is going to make some throws that were just like, wow, like that's a big time throw. Wow, that's kind of an insane throw. Or wow, that's a big play. So far in the year, 12 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, 1,331 yards. He's top in the top quarter of the Big Ten in passing yards. Their offense is a top 5 unit in the Big Ten. All the numbers point to Dylan Raiola being a really good quarterback. He's using his receivers at a high level. And Maryland, I think when we think about Maryland's team this year, I think a lot of people would agree. I think we have a pretty good football team. I think our defense is good. I think we're going to be able to compete. But I'm just saying, against this Nebraska team, I think they're going to be able to score against our defense. And I think that's a fair assumption to make. And that's why I say for Maryland to actually win the game, and for Maryland to be able to execute, for Maryland to be able to win this game, we're going to have to score some points. We're going to have Malik Washington's going to have a big game. And I think that's partly what kind of the spread indicates is Nebraska's 7-point favorites for a reason. And I know I think they're solid defensively. I don't think they're insane defensively. I think the biggest reason they're 7-point favorites, I think in my opinion, the reason why they're kind of put that way is because they're really good offensive team and they do some really high level things on the offensive side of things. So I think a lot of people would consider Nebraska right now an offensive powerhouse, to be completely honest. And I think when I think of Maryland's defense, I think it can have trouble with a unit like this. I think this year, honestly, a unit that grounds and pounds and runs the ball a ton, I'm not too worried about. Like a Michigan, for example. Like obviously, if we play Michigan's offense, they're definitely a good unit, but I think playing a team like Nebraska for us that does a really good job of throwing the football. They're going to give it to their best player. They have weapons on the outside. They're going to throw it all over the field. There's not a throw on the field he can't make. I think for me this year, that's the hardest thing for Maryland to guard. And I think that started to show up a little bit against Washington when in the fourth quarter when Washington scored 21 points. A lot of that was David Williams making some throws down the field. And I think it's important to kind of realize what we're kind of looking at now with Maryland's defense. And there could have been some holes exposed. I'm not saying there were, but I do think there could have been a couple holes exposed on the defensive side of the ball. Where now we might look at Maryland's defense and be like, maybe Washington showed some things. Maybe Washington exposed a couple things because it doesn't look as good as we think. But I do think that Maryland's offense is going to have to score a lot, and that's not going to be an easy task against a Nebraska defense. Like I said, I don't think they're crazy good, but I do think they're decent enough to do some things against us, or do some things against us defensively. But I'm looking at Maryland, and when I say score a lot, like I'm saying score probably above 30 points. I think that's the recipe to beat them. Like that's how Michigan had to beat them. When you look at how Michigan beat them, and I think Michigan has a better overall defense than Maryland. Michigan's offense had to score 30 points, and their defense gave up 27. And so I think to beat this Nebraska team, you're going to have to score. And I do think, like I said, I do think you can score the ball. I do have concern because a big reason why Michigan was able to have success offensively was because they were able to run the ball. So I do have some concern about that because obviously we can't run the ball to save our lives right now. Like if our lives were on the line and we had to average over 5 yards per carry, it just wouldn't happen right now for Maryland football. And as much as I hate to say it, that's the truth. And so you wonder, but I think the guys on the outside, we're going to have to create some plays down the field. We're going to have to score offensively. And this is me just giving you guys an honest kind of representation of the game. I just don't think our defense is going to get a ton of stops. And maybe I could be wrong. Maybe having Sidney Stewart back after the first half, after he got kicked out after the first half for targeting, and maybe having some of these players that have played well in the secondary all year have a good game would be huge. But I just see Nebraska scoring at least 28 points. Like I think they get to 28, like at least 24, like somewhere around that area at the very least. I predict them more to be in the 30-ish, and I think Maryland's going to have to score in the 30-ish points mark to be able to beat them. And I think that's fair to say that about Maryland football. Let's talk about the keys for the game. What needs to happen for Maryland football to be able to win besides score a bunch of points? We'll talk about that next. What do I think about Maryland football and how we can win the game? We'll talk about that next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda, moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move cultures, and keep moving the game covered. And this week's moment was for Malik Washington, who had another Big Ten game and was able to make some big-time throws to some big-time players. We continue to see Malik doing that. And no matter what, or even a post-game interview, he had a positive outlook, even despite the loss. What keeps the Maryland fans moving forward. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like that, there's more to every highlight. There's more to Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players deliver when it matters most. Let's break it down. For the Maryland Terrapins, my player of choice is Malik Washington, and he delivered in a big way. He made multiple big-time throws despite the loss, and he continues to have breakout performances. And when the pressure is on, he comes through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching him week after week, performances like this aren't a fluke. And just like Malik Washington delivered for the Maryland Terrapins, DoorDash delivers to you on Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fill your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. So let's talk about the keys for the game for Maryland football. Number one key for me, I think, is the freshman defensive linemen and their Maryland defensive linemen have to get pressure on Nebraska. And I think it's honestly completely possible. I think that when you look at Nebraska's football team in their offense, I think their offense is very good. But I think the way Michigan was able to have some success against them, they were able to get to Dylan Raiola. Like, he got brought down a good amount in that Michigan game, despite him having 300 yards, despite him having 3 touchdowns against Michigan. The biggest way they were able to get him off the field, have success, I thought from Michigan's point of view, was getting him down. And to me, that is so important going in to this game, because it finally feels like I can trust a pass rushing unit against Nebraska and against any team. And so, yeah, when you look at it, Michigan had 1, 2, 3, 4.5, another 1.5, so 6 sacks on the day. They had 6 total sacks against Dylan Raiola. That's a lot. And I don't think Maryland can quite get there, but I think it's fair to say that's going to be a key for Maryland football is Sidney Stewart and Zahir Mathis. We love you. We think you're really good football players. How often can you get to the quarterback for us? How often can you get us off the field on third down? How often can you get us in third and longs? I think that's going to be really important because I think we need some of that juice from guys that we know are talented enough, because I'm telling you, if he sits back there and has time, we're just not a good enough football team to cover up on the back end forever. And really nobody is. And that goes for just about anybody in the country. So I think generating pass rushing is really important. He will run some. I don't think he's the fastest cat in the world, like the most freakish athletic. I think a lot of damage is with his arm. He definitely can run, but I'm more concerned. Like last week, I was like, Damon Williams Jr. can kill us on the run game sometimes. Like he can rush the ball a lot. Like he can definitely hurt us. But from my point of view, it's a little bit different with Dylan Raiola. He can absolutely smoke us with his arm. And so I think you gotta find a way to get him out the pocket some, as well as getting those pass rushers going. They're going to throw the ball a lot. You know, there's going to be plenty of passing situations. We need Zahir Mathis. We need Sidney Stewart to be able to rush the passer at a pretty, at a pretty effective rate. I think it's just something that really just has to happen. Like it just does. And it's something that I'm going to be looking at for Maryland football. And I think is a real tangible key for the game. The next one is, I hate talking about this, but I feel like I must. You gotta find a way to get something going in the run game. Doesn't have to be necessarily explosive. Doesn't have to be elite. But I think there's got to be some guy out of those 3 backs that you're playing, and DeJuan Williams and Iverson Howard and Nolan Ray, who we expected to kind of blow up and be elite this year. Out of one of those guys, there's got to be a guy that can get you 4 yards per carry. I'm not asking for 4.2. I'm not asking for 4.5. I'm not asking for 5 yards per carry. I'm not asking for 10 yards per carry. I'm asking for a guy that can give you 4 yards per carry. If we can get one player that can get us to 4 yards per carry and we can lean on him a little bit, I think that will make it astronomically easier on Malik Washington, because right now it's just too much pressure on the kid. And that just leads me to another key. You got to release some pressure off of Malik Washington. I honestly, no bias, think Nebraska is the best team we've played so far this year. I guess the only really other team people would say is Washington. I think it's Nebraska. And I think they have a little bit more talent than us. I do. There's a reason they're 7-point favorites at home. Like Vegas is telling you something. Like we got to look at those numbers and be like, okay. But I think for me, though, I think we have to see at least one of them, whether it's Ray, like I said, Iverson, Howard, like throw somebody else in there. We need somebody that can create a little bit of friction in the run game, a little bit of momentum in the run game, just so we can be in 2nd and 6 instead of 2nd and 9 every single down, or just so we can be in 3rd and 3 instead of 3rd and 7, because their defense is pretty solid. I don't want to say it's amongst the best in the Big Ten, but it's pretty solid, and their offense is going to score. And so if Maryland's going to manage this game, if we're not going to give their offense too many looks, part of playing good defense is maintaining the ball on offense. And so I think it's important for Maryland to be able to do some of those things. I think that has to happen for this group to be really good for Maryland football. I think that's really a must for the Terps. And then I think the secondary, another key is the secondary. There's a lot of different players playing at a high level, whether it's Kevin Humes, you think of the veteran transfers like Jamar Glasker, Lakai Rowland has put his name in there, Braden Lee's played. They're going to have to step up. Nebraska's got dudes on the outside. They just do. Like, they have players that can go get it. Like, they have some dudes on the outside. And I think Maryland's secondary, you got to match up decently. I'm not saying we're going to stop these guys, but they got some good players like this kid, Ja'Cory Barney Jr., Dane Key, Luke Lidemeyer. Like, they have some guys. I think that's their tight end. Like, they have some guys where it's like, I like our secondary. I think it's pretty good. But this group is another animal than some of the other teams we played this year, especially Wisconsin. I just think you got to figure out a way to make some plays in the secondary, maybe generate a turnover, something like that. My last thing is, it doesn't have much to do with the team, but I'm genuinely curious about, I think a key could be the crowd. I've heard, I wasn't there last week against Washington. I heard it was there. Like, I heard it was loud. At least that's what Cam Rice said. I just saw on Instagram, and I did see some stuff on Twitter. It was like sold out, whatever the case is. You just took a loss. So that kind of automatically, I feel like, draws back from the crowd unless you're playing like Ohio State. And so I feel like Nebraska fans travel decently well. My thing is, I really think it's going to be important. I really want to see Maryland football. When I think about this game, I want to see the crowd into it. It's really tough in college football to become an elite program when you don't have any crowd behind you, when you don't have anybody pulling strings for you. I think that's kind of the scenario that Maryland football is dealing with. And so that's something that has to get fixed. I think it has to be better for the Terps to win the game on Saturday. Talk about some predictions. What do I think will happen? Who do I think will win? I'll talk about what my overall thoughts are next. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if you hit, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live line during the game. It makes watching the football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. You guys have to hit on FanDuel. It's prime sports season. You got a bunch of sports happening, whether it's the MLB playoffs, the NBA is coming back. I know you guys all love the NFL and college football. College basketball will be back soon. You guys got to get on FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. So I feel like most of the time I'm pretty positive about the Maryland football predictions, and the spread was at 7 last time I checked. But I think I just don't feel great about this game. I just don't. And I'm just going to be completely honest with you guys and give it to you guys straight. After that fourth quarter against Washington, it just felt like a smack in the face. To be up 20-0, to be right 5-0, be able to look right at 5-0, and take that loss in the face like that, it's just tough for me to feel like, one, the momentum's going to be there, and that's absolutely a thing in sports. When you're 5-0 at home playing Nebraska, it's a lot different with the chance to get the bowl eligibility off rip, which is something a lot of people question from Maryland football, including me, in the offseason. I think that's a different momentum than being 4-1. But it's not like we lost to Wisconsin and we lost to Washington, and now we're like, it's just going to be hard to get up for this game. Like, it's not on that level, but I do think it's like there would be a certain level of momentum. But when I think about the actual football game, there's a reason Nebraska's 7-point favorites than us or over us. They're better than us. They are. Like, they're straight up a better football team. And when you look position group to position group, I think a lot of places you would take Nebraska. I like our team for sure. We have every opportunity to win the game tomorrow. But when you just think it through, when you think about Nebraska, they're a pretty good football team, and they got a lot of good players. And so for me, when I think about Maryland football, when I think about this game, I just see our defense struggling in a major part. I just do. I just think Dylan Raiola is really good. I can see the trouble starting to start in this game. I can see us falling behind early in the game and trying to get back into it. I know we're home. It doesn't play a huge advantage for us because there's not much crowd and all those different things. And yeah, they got traveled from Nebraska, but it's like playing in a stadium where it's like nobody really cares, to be honest. Like, that's what it almost feels like. And so when I think about this game, I'm like, I just think Nebraska is a really good football team. And I think what's going to be the biggest flaw of Maryland football is putting way too much pressure on Malik. And I think that's going to not allow us to win the game. I think that and the combination of defense, I think we're going to see something similar to Washington where Malik makes some plays. He makes some good plays down the field. But how are we expected for him to make play after play after play after play after not being able to run the ball, after having nothing going, and Nebraska scoring some points, and we're down by 17 points, and it's like, how do we expect Malik to do anything? I think that's how I see it, because their pass rushers are going to tee off because they know we throw the ball 50 times a game. I'm sure Nebraska has made that pretty known that this team's going to throw the ball a lot. Like, let's get off. Like, let's get our Getty up. Like, let's try and go get the quarterback for Maryland football. So I think it's an interesting game, but I think Nebraska wins the game. I'll just start there. I think Nebraska wins the game. Now, when I think about the spread, I go back and forth a little bit. I feel like a lot of the times I think Maryland's a little bit undervalued this year, and I think Vegas hasn't quite caught up to that quite yet. I like don't know if like the Washington game, for example, like what was it, 6.5 at a point. Wisconsin was favored over us. Wisconsin's pretty terrible this year. When I think about the 7 points, I'm like, I just think I have to go Nebraska. I think I'm going to stick with Nebraska. I don't like picking against Maryland football. Maybe it'll give us some luck. I just don't know if we'll have the juice to win this game. I don't love the matchup. I don't love us guarding them and the receivers. Maryland can't run it. It's a lot of pressure from the league. Same reasons I said before. I think they cover the 7, to be completely honest. Like, I think they win by more than 7 points. And it's also like, I need to see it type of thing. I feel like Mike Locksley over the past year or so just hasn't coached great. I know early season he's been I'd say pretty solid besides that fourth quarter collapse against Washington. But we also haven't played a ton of good teams. But I just think I'm having trouble with this game because I feel like they have a lot of good players, and the Nebraska team's kind of on the tip of being really good. So that's just how I see it, but we'll see exactly what happens. Obviously, Maryland has an opportunity to win this game too as 7-point underdogs. But that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking about football, basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.